Hey guys, happy Thursday. Today we're going to keep doing a close read for Johnny Appleseed from our text collection. Our focus question today is if we reread pages 62 through 69 of Johnny Appleseed, how did Johnny Appleseed help settlers and the land? So that's part one. And then part two of the question is, do you think these reasons are strong enough to remember him so many years later? So it's a two-part focus question today. The first part is, how did he help the settlers in the land? So what did he do? Obviously, I think we know the answer to that. He was very famous for what he did. And then the question is, do you think these reasons are strong enough to remember him so many years later? So our second part of the question here is just an opinion. If you think what he did was strong enough to remember him so many years later. Personally, I think definitely it was. I mean, it was a huge advancement for the United States for him to plant these apple trees for the settlers. If it weren't for him, a lot of the settlers wouldn't have stayed there and made their homes there, and the United States wouldn't have expanded out all the way west to California without him. Such is my opinion, but we're going to go through. We're going to do a close read. We're going to read pages 62 through 69 today, and we have one vocab word, and we'll get to that in a moment. So let's start on page 62.
Timeline. 1774, born. Around 1794, travels west. 1797, settles in Pennsylvania. In the early 1800s, John moved west again. He moved to Ohio. He sold or gave apple seeds and trees to many settlers there.
Okay, so there's a sentence right there that
Picking
says
apples, 1800s.
what he did.
Early 1800s, moves to Ohio.
This tells what he did for the settlers here. He sold or gave apple seeds and trees to many settlers there. Also, for the land, clearly, he's planted a bunch of apple trees to make the land more important for the settlers to live there. If there were no apple trees, they wouldn't want to live there.
Timeline. 1774, born. Around 1794, travels west. 1797, settles in Pennsylvania. John liked to read books. Sometimes he read to the settlers. Other times he told stories about himself and his apples. Johnny Appleseed, on floor, reading to settlers. Early 1800s, moves to Ohio.
Okay, so again, another thing he did for settlers, he would read books to them. He would tell stories about himself to them. So he did a lot for settlers. And here he is doing things for the land again.
Timeline. 1774, born. Around 1794, travels west. 1797, settles in Pennsylvania. In 1838, John moved to Indiana. He sold apple seeds and trees to the settlers. He helped the settlers plant orchards. Johnny Appleseed, planting an orchard. Early 1800s, moves to Ohio. 1838, moves to Indiana.
So we see here, this is more of what he did for the settlers and for the land. He would sell apple seeds and trees to the settlers, and he helped the settlers plant orchards. So that was how he helped the settlers. And then since they planted the orchards, that's how he helped the land as well. And then we see his grave here when he passed away. And then we'll read this last page quickly.
John shared apple seeds, apple trees, and stories. Settlers gave him the nickname Johnny Appleseed. He died in Indiana in 1845. Johnny Appleseed's gravesite.
All right, we'll pause there. Next video, we'll talk about our vocab word, which is nickname.